back to another episode of From Dirt We Grow. My name is Stephanie Kendall, and as your host, I'd like to thank you for tuning in and also remind you to give me some LSB, the like, subscribe, and bell. And please don't forget about the comment section, as this is a space for us to come together to have the tough conversations that will lead to a better tomorrow. Now, I just want to get right into it because I feel like today's show is a bit of a doozy. We're going inside the legal system to see just how unjust it really is. A couple weeks ago, I briefly touched on some of the problems surrounding our prison system. That was episode 4, where we looked at better uses for our tax money. Please check it out if you haven't already. But this time we're going inside the inner workings of what happens before you land in prison. Law enforcement, the court system, and all the injustices, corruption, politics, and inequalities throughout. Let's break each one down individually, starting with the long arm of the law. Now, police officers are in place to protect and serve the community. However, more and more it seems like they're just like an extension of the military. Even more so when there are many departments that receive surplus military-grade weapons and vehicles, which do nothing but escalate violence rather than de-escalating situations and make them seem more like soldiers than public servants. Now we know the number one, most evident, most disgusting problem within the police force is the presence of racial biases. Studies show, as well as, our own two eyes, that Black people are disproportionately stopped, searched, and arrested. And that disproportion becomes very clear when you look at the population ratios. USAFacts.org tells us that the percentage of white people in the US is about 59%, and the population of white people in prisons makes up about 56%, according to BOP.gov. While Black people in the United States make up about 12% of the country and about 38% of population in prisons. That ratio is astounding. Going back to these traffic stops, far too many of them, which are actually less about the minor infractions of the driver they're pulling over and more about the push for ticket revenue, they're leading to citizen death at the hands of the cop. It happens way too well, it shouldn't happen at all, but it keeps happening because the cops are getting off too easy due to the legal protections and police unions that shield them from real consequences. In the instances where there is clear evidence from body or dash cams or someone's phone recording that the officer abused his power and let his personal bias or opinions lead him to kill someone on a traffic stop, it shouldn't matter anymore that he's a cop. He's a murderer, and that should take precedence every time. The abuse of power happens in other situations with the dirty cops or entire departments, depending on how high the corruption goes, with evidence tampering, keeping money or contraband they've seized, planting evidence, lying on reports or under oath. Also, with the excessive use of force or just using their badge to get away with bullying people. And then you've got the situation where there's pressure to solve a murder. So the DA's office and the higher ups are feeling this pressure, which they place on the officers to get answers. People want answers. So there are many people that are wrongly accused and convicted just because they needed someone to take the blame. Yep, there are innocent people in prison, serving time for something they did not do. And if they're lucky enough to eventually get pardoned, they've pretty much got to start over as they've lost jobs, housing, assets, possibly family and friends. Their reputation is destroyed, and their physical and mental health were most likely neglected while incarcerated. Catastrophic display of injustice. And then you've got the fact that a lot of departments have lack of funds for things like proper training and dealing with mental health issues within the ranks, and few resources to solve the serious crimes. There's a lack of engagement between law enforcement and the community. There's a loss of trust on both sides for obvious reasons. There are substantial problems that need to be faced head on to find the solutions, not covered up or swept under the rug or downplayed. This code amongst the quote unquote boys in blue to protect each other at all cost goes against their oath to protect the citizens with integrity and without bias. The American judicial system. The well-oiled machine of justice for all, disguised as a fair and honest system designed to protect individual rights, when really it's just yet another flawed structure of government riddled with corruption, greed, racial and economic injustices, and politics. Here again, studies show that Black and Brown folks are more likely to be arrested, convicted, and receive harsher sentences compared to white individuals, even for similar crimes. The laws and sentencing are not one size fits all. People that hold deep seated biases, especially against the Black community, that have shaped their views and beliefs for so long are not going to be able to make decisions or come to conclusions with an open, rational, clearly thought through mindset. This could potentially include judges, juries, even lawyers, including the DA. Due to these systemic inequalities and a few excessive laws keeping them there, prisons are overpopulated and understaffed. And rather than scrutinizing the system that is obviously not doing any good for anyone, the answer is to build more prisons. When that waste of money could be better used in rehabilitation and education programs, which would do a world of good for the congestion problem and the prisoners. Another bias built into the framework is economically charged. Many people can't afford adequate legal representation, leading to unfair outcomes with the imbalance between those that are rich and those that are other than rich. Your court appointed state funded lawyer is overwhelmed with workload due to understaffing and the amount of cases they're assigned. They most likely won't be as effective as a private lawyer. And of course, there's the greed motivated, ever present, destructive ugliness of corruption. The more money you have, the more you can get away with. Money has the power to allow someone to be above the law. Almost everyone has a price, and if you can afford to pay it, your problems go away. The more we dig into the crumbling structure of our nation's foundations, uglier we look on the inside. We're now built on money, power, influence, and lies, like the blatant lie that we're innocent until proven guilty. This fallacy is contradictory and, again, unfair for those with money. Because if you're accused and you're waiting for your trial to start, you're waiting behind bars unless you can pay the bill. How can you be detained if you're, as of now, still presumed innocent? Just another smoke and mirrors act, compliments of your trusty advocates, the U.S. government. The repetitive, resounding theme in every broken branch of America's tree involves bigotry, greed, and lack of accountability. I, for one, am ready for the destruction of the double standards. I'm willing to use my voice to let it be known it's time to be heard. And I'm able to stand up for justice for all until they take notice and do something to make a change. I want to take this time to explain that I have decided to format my schedule a bit differently. I am going to publish my regular weekly episodes that focus on highlighting the different issues within the systems that are in place. My regular scheduled content every Tuesday. But with all of the craziness going on in today's world, there are times that I will have featured episodes sporadically. So one week there might be 2 episodes published. These are going to be my off schedule episodes. So once in a while there will be an extra episode thrown in that week, but it's not going to be every week, and it's going to be specifically for topics that I feel are time sensitive or just need to be addressed. To clear up any confusion, the regularly scheduled programming will be every Tuesday. But once in a while, you'll catch an extra episode thrown in that I feel is necessary to be published outside of my regular schedule. Please join me. Leave comments. Share the show with everyone you know. And don't forget to LSB. And next week, make sure you're here to talk money, 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 money. I am Stephanie Kendall. This is From Dirt We Grow. Thank you for listening.